Hello there, world of tankers, and welcome to the channel. I'm your host, Droodles Blitz, and in today's video, we are going to be taking a look at the Kran. This is a tier 10 Swedish tech tree auto-reloading heavy, and it's a vehicle that currently is incredibly strong. It has ridiculously good turret armor, a gun which is able to deal 1200 potential damage in a short 6-second time period, and when you pair that with the super speed boost allowing you to get in and out of position pretty quickly, it just allows this tank to be really strong. There's a lot of people that try to say, oh, the DPM's not that good, therefore the tank's not that good, and that's just a blatant lie. I mean, I have over 3,500 average, or close to 3,500 average damage in the vehicle, with over 1,000 games played and a 76% win rate. And that's pretty good, judging that I've had this tank since it was originally released. It is one of the easiest tanks to do well in, as long as you understand the playstyle. It does not rely on DPM, even in the slightest bit, due to the fact it carries a clip. But next update, it's gonna have DPM, but not in the way you're thinking. See, the vehicle's losing DPM, but also gaining DPM. It's kind of getting some weird changes, and that's why I'm making a video dedicated to what's happening to the Kran. So if we make our way over to Blitzkit, we can actually take a look at what is happening next update. And it's going to have 2,700 damage per minute with calibrated. The Kran currently is sitting at around 2,300 damage per minute, as we can see right there. So it is literally getting a massive damage per minute buff of about like 400. That's pretty dang impressive. And it's going to allow the Kran to actually go toe-to-toe with some of the higher DPM heavies. The reason it's getting such a big DPM buff is because Shell 3 is losing a second on the reload, and the intra-clip is getting 0.27 seconds faster. So when you pair these things together, it allows the vehicle to reload much quicker. We can see the 6.48 second reload versus the 7.5, and yeah, it's about a whole second shaved off. But when you pair the 3-second intra-clip to the 2.73, that means actually you're looking at around 1.2 seconds shaved off of Shell 3, which is massive, and it's what allows the vehicle to have 2,600 damage per minute. Shooting it on single shot is going to give you super effective DPM. However, what Wargaming has done is nerfed the other two shells. So we can see Shell 2 is a 9.26 second reload, and Shell 1 is a 13 second reload, where the current Kran has an 8.44 second reload and a 12.19. Now, to be fair, the DPM nerfs aren't massive, especially because you do have to remember that for Shell 2, there is the intra-clip buff that is still being affected. So you're not losing that much DPM when loading your other shells. But what you do have to keep in mind is that you're going to go from around 2,700 DPM on Shell 3 to like 2,000 DPM on Shell 2. And yeah, that's a big DPM drop-off, and something that you're definitely going to want to keep in mind. So basically what Wargaming's doing is they're making the tank more punishing when you dump the clip, but more rewarding when you fire it as a single shot, keeping the other two shells in the magazine. I don't mind this at all. I think it makes the Kran a lot more skill-based, because smart players are going to use the high DPM, and then when they need to, they're going to dump the clip. At least, in theory, that's how smart players should use it, but that's not always the case. We can see that the vehicle is also gaining 10 damage per shot, which is actually pretty nice. So not only is it getting a faster reload on the first shell, but it's also getting higher damage per shot. But it's only 10, so it's 30 damage extra a clip, and with the way RNG works, you're probably not going to notice that 10 alpha difference all too much unless you're getting a max roll, or you're relying on it to not min roll. But apart from that, not too much of a change in that regard. The biggest change that is going to be nerfing the tank is the pen. Currently, my Kran has 373 millimeters of heat. We can see that right there. This is with calibrated equipped. And this is also with calibrated equipped. And we can see it's 350. Yeah, Wargaming's taking about 20 millimeters of heat off of the vehicle. Now, 350 in theory should be enough to cut through most armor. I have seen a lot of people still using rammer on the T110E5, including skilled players. So it's not that surprising, like, this will be fine in terms of pen, is really what I'm getting at. You'll be able to cut through most opponents. And I actually like that they're nerfing the pen, because the Kran really doesn't have many weak spots. I mean, look at the turret armor on this thing. It's 355 on flat, and if you're using gun depression, that turret armor is going up easily to like 420. It's a little ridiculous, and I think that having lower heat pen is going to make it a bit harder to cut through super heavily armored opponents, and it's going to make it a bit more fair. But the increased DPM is definitely going to be a welcomed buff. And the question is, will the tank be too strong? And to be totally honest, I don't really think so. I mean, for a skilled player, yeah, the Kran will be really good. But most people that play this game aren't very skilled. Take the average minnow player, for example. What do we see a lot of minnows player doing? Dump their clip. They do it all the time. They dump the full clip, including the reserve shell, and then they sit on single shot reserve shell with like 2 DPM. You see it happen all the time. And it's going to be the same thing for the Kran players. I mean, I can't tell you how many times I see people crawl into my comment section saying, oh, the Kran's such a hard tank to play. And I'm like, is it really? You just sit hold down and shoot people. I don't know what's that challenging about it. But the problem is people don't understand how to use its DPM effectively, and then they complain it has bad DPM when it doesn't. That's the real situation of the Kran. So we shoot at the WZ. Ooh, I don't want to be hit by an E100. Thankfully, we were able to turn our turret and then get a nice shot ourselves. We also got the VZ. We got a lot of tanks here, actually. I don't like this. I mean, we're fine, but here's the WZ on the side, and the WZ can cut right through my turret if it really wanted to, which is something to always keep in mind. But we're doing fine. The VZ can't really pen me, and we are just reloading our clip. And now that we have the WZ in the back, we're going to load in a heat shell. There you go, nice 355. And, oh, you saw that one. Our TVP just drove right into us. But you can see how, like, even I don't really use the tank's effective DPM. Like, as I mentioned before, you have most effective DPM in a Kran when you are shooting it on a single shot, which is like this. And then you reload, and then you shoot it one more time. But why do that when I can just go 1, 2, and 3 into the 100 and then back up without bleeding health? So that's a good example of where, like, in the next update, I'm losing DPM when I do that, where I still lose DPM in this current form, but it's not as much, you know? That's the best way to describe it. So we have the 4005, but he's not in a position I'm too worried about right now. We are finally getting our third shell back. So we are going to aim it on the 100, and 3, 2, 1. There you go. 1 shell into the 100. 2 shells into the 100. Now, I'm not going to dump my third shell, because I'm going to lose DPM if I do that, and the E100 only has 30 health, so there's no real reason to do that. This is a good example of where taking advantage of my DPM, even if it's only by a slight amount, will give me a faster reload. So we just have to wait 1 second, and let's see what's over here. There were a few tanks off to this spot, but it doesn't look like they're here right now. So we're going to activate our super speed. We're just going to push the 4005 and get 1 shell into him. And, oh, that was an awful shot for me. I absolutely jumped the shell there and shouldn't have, but didn't really matter. We still got our damage out into the 4005. We've still dealt 3,500 this game, and we're doing fine. So now we reload again. Now, what I will say is going to be a real nasty thing about the Kran next update is that the intra-clip is getting quite a big buff, which is obviously going to allow it to just nail out damage. It's going from 3 seconds to 2.7, which is a huge buff when you actually think about it. That means you're going to be able to get your whole clip out in 6 seconds? I mean, that is kind of crazy. I don't know if I want to... Yeah, I'll shoot it. Why not? I only have 1 heat shell left anyway, so doesn't really hurt to just dump it. It low-rolled by 1, but that doesn't really... Actually, no, it low-rolled by more than 1. It's not 300 alpha, it's 340. Either way, this was a good game. And it's a good example of, even on like a town engagement, where the Kran just does really well. Because it's got the clip, you're able to get out damage and trade with your opponents super easily. Next update, it's going to be an entirely different playstyle. Instead of dumping the clip like you saw me there, I would mostly be shooting single shot, reloading, and then only using the 2 last shells as a form of reserve shell, where if somebody tries pushing you and you've lowered them enough, you can clear them. It's kind of like a Caro 45 ton. That's the best way to describe it. So we did good. We did fine. And it's a great example of the Kran. But you can imagine how next update it's going to be completely reversed on the playstyle that I just had, and it'll be really interesting to see how it plays. I think it'll be really strong. I don't think it's going to be overpowered, as I mentioned before, but let me know in the comments what you guys think. I'll see you in the next one. Bye-bye!